Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about tarot, spirituality, healing, liberation, and other topics. If you did not know, we are now in Libra season, so happy birthday to my Libras out there. I myself am a Libra rising, and I'm also a Gemini sun, so I just feel like people are really hard on air signs for some reason, and I don't know why, because I think we're awesome. But to just describe Libra a little bit, if you're not aware, Libra is all about balance and diplomacy. They are social butterflies a lot of the time, but that also means they have a tendency, maybe more so than others, to potentially fall into people-pleasing behaviors. So that's maybe one of the downsides of the Libra energy, but I love Libras. I think they're great. I think this is a really fun time of year. And then, yeah, to get into what this video is truly about, the symbol for Libra is the scales, because it is so much about balance. And for that reason, the Justice Tarot card is associated with Libra. So I thought, because I did a hermit themed video for Virgo season, I would do a Justice themed video now that we're in Libra season. And I thought to talk about the concept of justice within the realm of spirituality could be pretty interesting. So I was thinking I would just rant about that a little bit while I go through my decks and pull out cards that I associate with justice, or maybe Libra as well. We'll see what comes out. I already pulled out this one just because it's so straightforward. What is this one called? Balance, yeah. And we'll talk about it. And then I was thinking at the end I would probably try to do a collective reading that's justice themed and see what comes out for everyone. But yeah, if you're up for a discussion about what justice looks like in a spiritual context, then stick around. I'm also going to discuss justice as the tarot card and some of its different meanings and ideas. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, or studying or brushing up, this is also going to be a good opportunity for that. So yeah, if you're here for the cards, then you're going to see some pretty cards. If you're here for the justice and spirituality discussion, please sound off in the comments with your own thoughts. And if you're here to study, there will be plenty of opportunity for that as well. So if you are up for any or all of those things, stick around. We're going to get into that now. So I think one myth that many people are familiar with is the concept of weighing a heart and a feather. And if your heart is lighter than the feather, then you know, you lived a good life and did good things. But if your heart is heavier than the feather, then you have done poorly and will be cursed accordingly. That I think is pretty well known. I'm really sorry to start this video with a Doreen Virtue deck. This is something I got from my mom. Just had it lying around for the longest time and wasn't using it, so I took it. I think it's so funny that she just happened to have that. So please forgive me for the Doreen Virtue deck, but this is a goddess deck, and I know that Mott is in here and she is relevant because the myth is all about the scales of Mott and the judgment of Osiris. I'm not super knowledgeable about all the details, but there you go, there are the scales, and she's all about fairness. The situation will be handled in a fair and just manner. But what does that really mean? What is fair and just? And Yeah, I think everyone has a different idea of that as a concept, and then that practically in terms of what that's going to end up looking like. Let me get like an actual justice card, because these are actually oracle cards for now. I've noticed an absence of the discussion of justice in many spirituality communities. I certainly won't say most, because many are very much grounded in embodying the values of justice that's centered in liberation. Here we go. Really interesting duality in this card. I kind of forgot what it looked like in this deck. Don't use my Wild Unknown deck too often, but I do like it. Sentimental. I'll get the traditional justice card from the Rider-Waite, so you can see that original symbolism if you don't have it memorized, and just to have it out here. Oh, that was really convenient. Okay. So yes, with the Justice card you see pillars, just like with the High Priestess and the Hierophant. So yeah, it's interesting, like, even though tarot cards aren't very modern, the idea of justice was so institutional even a long time ago. Because, you know, they're like, I feel like people take it to extremes a lot of the time. Like, people just adhere to, this is my Steven Universe deck, adhere to ideas of justice, or they just adhere to the institutions that are already in place. And yeah, some of the extremes that I've seen, people just, you know, without any further analysis, adhere to or side with the institutions that are already in place that are like inherently oppressive. Ooh, it's Lion. Nice. Lion's gonna judge you. Make a good call. Oh wait, sorry, that's Judgment. And that's another thing to discuss, which I doubt there will be time for in this video, but sometimes people switch Justice and Judgment around, which, I mean, they're quite different. That's so funny though that I got tripped up by that, because it is easy to, I suppose. But yeah, people side with an institutional version of justice, or they go like the spiritual bypassing route. So that's like another side of things, or both at once, which is extra unfortunate. Here we go. Jasper is justice. Nice. The spiritual bypassing side of things, I think, you know, it seeks to ignore all of the negative aspects of life. I'm saying negative in quotation marks, in favor of, like, you know, good vibes only. And that, I think it's becoming a little bit more common of a take that that's toxic, but I would take it a step farther and say that it's kind of oppressive and out of alignment, because these two extremes feed each other, in my opinion. Ooh, I found it. It really stands out in this deck. This is the Spacious Tarot. It really helps me understand the cause and effect part of justice, because I think that gets a little lost sometimes. I really like that Justice card. Because, okay, when you banish all of the people doing what is bad, as defined by society, the good vibes only and the belief in our current justice system, they feed each other, because people are really told, like, people are told, like, what is right and what is wrong, and, like, there are so many unjust things that are normalized versus, like, individual injustices are so demonized, and it's really extreme. This is my Botanica tarot deck, and it's very minimalist, but the symbol for justice is scales, which definitely stands out. Yeah, people, you know, are disappeared from society because, you know, we don't want to deal with them anymore because they did a bad thing. There are plenty of people doing bad things who are still revered because they're protected by what's normalized as bad or unjust versus what isn't. I'm gonna check to see what plant this is because I have not memorized this deck yet. It is gladiolus. Yes, it is so pretty. Probably gonna end up moving these around a lot, but that's that for now. Yeah, I meant to get into this sooner. I want to be clear on my personal standpoint here so you can like just be aware of where I'm coming from. As you can probably tell, I am white, very light. I am a settler or colonizer in the so-called United States. And I definitely don't feel comfortable speaking on a lot of this. I wholeheartedly believe in abolition and I seek to be a student of the movement, but I simply do not have the range. I don't have the education or the lived experience. So I definitely want to be clear in terms of that. Please, if you're looking for more information in areas like that, please seek more information about that through other creators, activists, academics, queer and trans, Black and Indigenous people especially. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there, but it would be really weird if I didn't bring that up because I don't want to frame this as if I'm not inherently part of the problem. Don't ever intend to express that for a moment. But I think, you know, balance, bringing that part of justice back into things. I do want to speak on balance and spirituality and justice, and just sort of some of the common shortcomings of largely white, new age, or other spiritual communities and practices. Modern day colonized spirituality is often lacking the connection of truly embodying the ideals of like holding the environment and non-human animals to be sacred and essential, and treating other human beings with love as well, like not love and light, like truly with love, and just being centered from a standpoint of believing in collective liberation. And to do that, it would mean tearing down and rejecting all of the current institutions, and that's often how we think of justice in the present moment. That critical analysis, I think, is usually left out of the practices and the content from the high vibe types. I didn't really think about how distracting it was going to be to search for these cards while I talked. So I'm sorry about that. It was surprisingly distracting. I guess I should have seen that coming. So yes, justice does not look like the current justice system, the prison industrial complex, or any police or military forces. Those are not in alignment with the ideals of the value of human beings and their right to live a healthy life. That is what I've come to believe after my own education and learning from others. I really like this. Well, first of all, let's all give a warm welcome to my most recently acquired tarot deck, the Majestic Earth Tarot. This is out of print. I didn't realize that at first. I went on a hunt to find it because it is very hard to get, and someone was willing to sell me theirs, and I feel really lucky to have something that's so rare. If you don't know about this deck, it is every card is a painting that already existed. A lot of them are like classics that are just gorgeous. It's all about the earth. Classic me, if you've seen any of my other videos, loving the nature decks. Can't help it, but I love this card because it's very relevant to what we're talking about. It's called the Council of Law, and there's the Libra symbol. Yeah, in this deck, it's not called Justice, it's called the Council of Law. And that really shows this community-based system of accountability. And I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that this is from an older time in what looks to be an indigenous society. I swear, someday I'm gonna have one video in which I don't end up changing the lighting halfway through, but we have not reached that day yet, I guess. I'm sorry, y'all. I really need to film earlier in the day, but I usually do all of my tarot work late at night, so it's hard for me to start in the morning, but tarot in the morning is great. I want to get more into that. But getting back to the Council of Law, you can see this community-led proceeding. You can look up this card, Council of Law. The Parliamentary Assembly gathers around Law Rock for the year's business and disputes. Petitioners are judged on social merit, reputation, and what is known of the case. Ultimately, justice demands an inner reckoning of one's own participation in cause and effect. Libra, air, governing, equity, accountability, justice, law, weighing. Yeah, I don't know too much about the context of this painting, but I do like this idea of a more community-led accountability process. That sort of brings us to the topic of like transformative justice and restorative justice practices that many communities do have in place, but I'll also link my How Can You Better Serve the Collective video, because that video I touched, that was a pick a card reading, but it was like centered a lot around the idea of individualism and where you might be falling into that. If you are, I mean, I think we all are, most of us are given pretty heavy indoctrination to be individualistic, and I think a lot of the types of spiritual communities and influences that I've been talking about in this video are very much rooted in individualism, and that causes that is like not unrelated to the problems we're talking about here. So yeah, I think community-led processes is like immediately closer to something that will be healthy and just versus archaic systems that are state-run that are not actually grounded in wanting to help anyone and just create further trauma. And another thing that I thought of that's like really relevant right now, we've seen spiritual creators and mediums, etc., covering true crime cases, right? This is a really popular practice, and they're focused on talking to victims or finding out what happened, but they never discuss what happens afterwards, or they'll show support for the people who committed egregious crimes being locked away. And it's hard when people are exceptionally violent to reckon with that and what should happen with them. It is one version of accountability, but I just want to put it out there, like, is it truly satisfying if it just generates more trauma? You know, like whenever a person is punished, their family, their community, their friends all suffer, and resources are dedicated to incarcerating that person that could be going to people who really need it. So indirectly, those people are suffering as well. And yeah, so many people see justice as an eye for an eye, retribution for someone's harms against society or specific victims, but that is revenge. That's not accountability. So yeah, my personal take on justice is that it should be more based in healing. And it is ironic because I think a lot of the people who are like tacitly endorsing these current systems and institutions are healers. And I'm not saying they're not healers because they don't have a more radical take on what justice should look like, but I think it's just an invitation to sort of question, like, if you are really empathetic and want to be out for people's best interests, I think it's important to stay vigilant about the ways in which we are conditioned to be violent by society, because that's something to constantly be examining, I think, since we are constantly being fed that kind of thing. I got really distracted and I stopped looking for cards. I have to continue. Just having such a fun time ranting. Next deck I'm going to be pulling from is the Gentle Tarot. And I was thinking I would probably do the collective reading at the end of this, if I do choose to do that. With this deck, because it is gentle and it's also made by an indigenous artist, and I think that just fits into the discussion here. I know what the card looks like. I can see it in my mind. In fact, I realize these are color coded, so it should be easier to flip through. All of the majors in this deck are purple. Why are all the majors right here? Oh, there's justice. Let's see what the Gentle Tarot has to say. Yeah, from the guidebook in the Gentle Tarot. It's tough to do what feels right in a world that often forces you into a box. Tending to self-care and mental health is so important. Don't deny yourself the little things. The Justice card brings us an opportunity to reflect on cause and effect. If something in your past is holding you back, learn to embrace the lessons and shroud yourself in forgiveness. Every moment is a gift and an opportunity. Justice whispers, more healing, more integrity, more equanimity. That's not the whole description, but a good chunk of it, and I totally agree and think that's totally aligned with what we're talking about here. We have at least one more card. I don't know what other oracle cards I might want to bring out, but at least one other Justice card. This is the botanical deck, and I have a video about the blacklight version of this deck. I'll put that in the cards as well. Yeah, I did a comparison because I didn't see a comparison video on YouTube, so if you're interested in seeing the difference between the two, that one's a spin-off with a different color palette. It's suited for fluorescing under UV light. It's really cool. Okay, Dancing Lime. Now to search for it. There's no color coding to help me in this deck. But I guess to sort of like round this out, to find a balanced take on all of this, it really is so much about balance. I believe in the idea that no one is disposable. That doesn't mean, so anti-disposability culture is what I call it in my mind. It's not the same as anti-cancel culture. I do have an issue with that because I really think in that case it's great to center people's humanity and the fact that everyone deserves to be loved and to have a support system. It's true. But a lot of, I'll just say it, at the end of the day, I think accountability gets lost like a lot of the time in those kinds of conversations. Like so much time is spent on humanizing people that you forget that like it's not the same to be the person who was harmed and to be the person doing the harming. Like, they have different needs, and the person who was harmed has to go first, or has to be prioritized. People will just put victims and survivors in harm's way because, well, the person who is doing the harming deserves a full life, right? But I definitely believe in a survivor-centered take on things. I will say, like, here, I kind of want to like allow y'all to see as I'm sorting. Yeah, that lets you appreciate it, or I'll cover up Mott. I'm sorry, Mott. But this is in the name of protesting Doreen Virtue. Which, why is her last name Virtue? It's definitely not her real name. Maybe, I don't know. But, yeah, I think just accountability gets lost. And I do want to say, you know, there's also, you can speak to the issue of like creating this abused and abuser binary. I think that is not productive and causes a lot of problems. And yeah, I feel like that could just be a whole other video, honestly. So it just is really, it's nuanced, but yeah, you can't lose accountability in the name of not disposing of people. There has to be balance. And that's what I love about justice. It's sort of like an ongoing conversation because, again, abolition is creative. And while so many things need to be stripped down and completely destroyed, there's also the rebuilding. And it's like easy to forget that part sometimes, I think. Here we go. It's so spooky. It's kind of great for spooky season, actually. Dancing Lime. I sort of want to read what that's about. Doing a video on a scarf is like maybe not the smartest. Let's read about the Dancing Lime. I was like, this deck is extra large because it comes with an oracle deck. And if you were wondering why I was searching so long, it's because I found that at the like almost very end of a deck that has more than 100 cards. But okay, yes. Germanic tribes held meetings in court under this tree during the time of the Roman Empire. Even after Christianization, the tree continued to be associated with justice. Yeah, I think we got through most of what I was wanting to say on the topic of justice. And, you know, people aren't talking about, like, people are not talking about, like, yeah, going to court in your average tarot reading on YouTube or even privately, I think. Sometimes, for sure, but not usually. This is more, I'm just going through this oracle deck to see. There are definitely like cards with duality, but I don't know if there's anything explicitly, well there's, okay. As I said, I don't know if there's anything explicitly about balancing. I flipped past balancing act, so that's certainly something. But here's balancing act, and it's definitely not an accident that they made this card number 11. Like 1-1, you know, so that was clever of them. I could see what's in the guidebook for that. This is a Colette Baron Reed deck. I'm not trying to gatekeep any of these decks or anything. I'll always put the decks in the description so it's clear. Balancing act, you are calm within no matter the fluctuation of outer conditions. Yeah, so this is more just strictly about balance as opposed to justice. But there's making a choice as well. A lot of duality there. I think the average tarot reader is not talking about the court system a lot of the time, but they're talking about like justice achieved in individual relationships. So like healing trauma bonds or getting back at your ex or something. Like, it's usually not anything. It can be, I mean, tarot covers really serious topics, and I feel like people are often reading about really strained or painful or otherwise complicated relationships. But there's this aspect missing of drawing into modern day radical praxis, or the concept of like what can be accomplished in community, how can your community support you in seeking justice in this relationship or situation. And there isn't a lot about like, you know, people do career readings, but they don't focus on how do you pursue justice further in your own workplace. There's a question because there's often an opportunity there that people aren't really diving deep enough to address. I don't know about this deck, if there really is anything. I think they're mostly just pieces of this idea. There's the Revolutionary, and I love that in this deck. That's the Threads of Fate Oracle. I'll put that there for now unless I find a more relevant one. But that's like, it makes me think of abolition. Yeah, I guess I just really want to encourage people to think about justice outside of sending someone away to be punished and or like getting some sort of revenge on someone you know, because it can be a much more collective experience. And I really think there's just a lot of potential to better. Paradox is a good one because all of this is very much a paradox. It's hard. It's really hard to figure out what is fair. The answers aren't out there a lot of the time. You know, this is all these are things that need to happen in real time, but it doesn't mean the work shouldn't be done. So yes, I just wish people could think more collectively, and I just think spirituality could be applied to political movements in a much better way, or like people focus on their own growth through healing and spirituality. They don't really necessarily apply that growth to how they can personally better serve their communities or the world at large. You know, it's again often this really individualistic practice, and I think we can do better than that. I really do. And yeah, I just wanted to speak on that because it's really easy to just do love readings or personal readings or get caught up in your life and not seek ways to further improve in a way that isn't just like affecting you and your immediate loved ones. So, oh yes, I did say I could do a collective reading for justice if people are interested in that. Okay, so if you are only here for the studying and discussion part of things, this is where that's going to end. I'm going to move on to a justice themed collective reading just for funsies now. So if this is where you're departing from this video, thank you so much for being here. Check out the description for a list of all of the decks that have been used and some other relevant videos. Please do like and subscribe and comment if you are interested. And I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye. Everyone else, let's move on to the collective reading. So, as I said, I'm using the Gentle Tarot for this reading, and it's going to be justice themed and specifically like balancing the scales themed. So, if you don't have an issue in mind that is bothering you currently, this might not be the reading for you. Or if you don't have like a decision you need to make or anything that's giving you like confusion or difficulty, this might not be a collective reading for you, but if you are having anything like that right now and want some clarity, if you know it's something, or if you have to make a choice between two things, or you can see different perspectives in a situation, if you're specifically clashing with someone, any of those, then this could be perfect. So we're just gonna see. This is just a quickie for funsies and, you know, further sort of talking about the scales, because the spread is going to be scale shaped and you'll see what I mean. I'm really curious to see what comes out. So let's see what you got. 7 of Swords on the bottom of the deck, so that makes me think that if you are still here for this right now, you probably do have something very specific on your mind. But let's see. Woof. Okay, my bad, y'all. I did not line this up with the camera properly at all. So to go over it again, 1, 2, there are different things. These are the clarifiers, 3 and 4, and 5 is the balance. So you sort of get the scales imagery there, I hope. But so thing 1 and 2 were like perspective 1, perspective 2 were interesting because it was Root of Stones, which is Knight of Pentacles, and 3 of Thunder, which is 3 of Swords reversed. And I was getting kind of like, it's already slanted again, I'm so sorry. I was getting like kind of head versus heart energy already. This heart is also a head, which is interesting, but I'm getting like sort of being practical and steadfast. I was saying Knight of Pentacles is an energy I really admire because of their perseverance. And then I think there's this more emotional side where you're getting really in your head about, is this thing that you're so committed to, that you've put so much work into so far, is it worth it? Because it seems to be having some sort of drawback, as many things do. And the clarifiers for the cards for each thing was the Seed of Thunder reversed, which is the Page of Swords reversed, and the Emperor reversed, which, I don't know, yeah, that kind of just further backed up my head versus heart analysis. It really feels like you're potentially considering breaking up, ending a relationship, or quitting a job. And, you know, I'm just getting this energy of like there's this outside party who is giving you trouble. Like I'm getting bad boss energy, and like you've had it up to here kind of energy, and then there's like the other side of it where you're like, this is really great for my career, and I just like, you know, just logically you either need it a lot financially, or it's a great stepping stone for your next moves in life. Like rationally, you know that you really want to be where you are, but emotionally you're having a really hard time with the relationship. I think it's the same thing. This might have been well, it's not necessarily a long-term thing, but I think it's something you really like the idea of, and you're really committed to working on, or you're into the idea of being willing to work on it. It might actually be new because the Page of Swords, any page energy is, you know, more juvenile, underdeveloped, or more tied to the beginning of something. You might be having communication problems. I mean, I think if you're having any kind of relational issues, there's probably some kind of communication problem, right? But with the Swords in reversed here, you know, I'm getting like some sort of message is not being communicated or not coming through, and yeah, it's causing an issue. It's causing some pain for you and maybe the other person. I'm not sure. let's look at the balance card. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Man. Oh my gosh. You can't even like, you know, set this stuff up. Like, you know, you can't make this up. It's like so funny. So one of the reasons I knew, I mean, I already really wanted this deck and just loved everything that it was about, but it was like afterwards I realized the cover is the same as the Two of Swords, and like that's one of my favorite cards ever, and it's all about making decisions and balancing, so it's like perfect that it's the balance for these scales in this reading, and also just like especially wonderful in the Gentle Tarot. Like when I realized that was the cover, I was just like, wow, this is just fabulous. Interesting that it's more swords energy. I think, yeah, it seems like you are definitely having a hard time making a choice, and I don't think this reading is going to be anything that can tip you one way or another. You know, like I don't really see anything particularly conclusive here. If you're looking for confirmation, all I can really give you is that you're super valid in feeling confused. I mean, you always are, but you know, like just looking at this reading, it's really coming through that this is complicated, and you know, you're really being called to withdraw and really think on this, and you know, make that pros and cons list. Talk to trusted friends, family, other advisors, mentors in your life, so you're not like overthinking this like all on your own as well, and you can have someone to bounce ideas off of. If the Emperor is more the energy that you are in, then maybe it's more like nobody is actually antagonizing you except for yourself, which is also its own sort of painful situation. In that case, it seems like you're sort of falling into self-sabotage here, which would explain all of these like swords in reverse. It's just a lot of anxiety, and that can eventually lead to you feeling pretty heavy, which like earthy is heavy, and like Major's energy is a lot heavier. Yeah, it kind of seems like you, if that's the case, it seems like you're sort of like ready to break and just like give up and hide and maybe neglect your responsibilities and mourn all of the things that you're grieving or sad about, and like take time for your mental health. And that might be what you need to do. That might very well be what is called for in this situation. I don't know, but yeah, it's literally the balancing part is so balanced. So I'm not really sure what this means for you, but I can see that it is giving you some trouble. So I'm sorry to hear that. If I'm sorry if this is resonating, because that sounds tough, and I feel you. And I hope this Libra season is a time that can clear that up for you. I hope you have a wonderful Libra season that helps you gain more clarity on this situation, perhaps, because this certainly doesn't look like anything that's going to be solved overnight, that's for sure. It definitely looks like it needs a lot more careful consideration and balancing. So yes, I hope you do get the clarity you need. Maybe this was helpful, I'm not sure. I think there's definitely a message for someone here. I really like how this panned out. I like this spread a lot. I might do it for myself. I really like the Two of Swords came out. Thank you, deck. I love that card. It also kind of stalks me. It's one of my stalker cards personally. I don't know if you have any cards that stalk you, but yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was fun or educational or both, or, you know, maybe it was just kind of obnoxious. I'm not sure, but just wanted to give it a go. So thank you for your time and your energy, and yeah, feel free to like and subscribe if you are interested in doing that. I would love to hear from you in the comments as well. All relevant information and links will be in the description, and that's all I've got. So take care, be well, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye.